Hello everybody, welcome to the JavaScript course. In this video, I'm going to discuss attributes and properties. So the attributes are for HTML code and the properties are for the DOM properties in JavaScript. The video is going to tell you that we can access all the standard and non-standard HTML attributes. We are also going to talk about the property attribute synchronization. And we will also see that the DOM properties can have types that are different from the string type. Finally, we will investigate the dataset property that is going to help us handle custom attributes. Now, let us see the HTML file first. The HTML file has a number of divisions and a field set shown here. And of course, I have a title for my HTML file. And then in the division here, I have elements to include in it. So the H1 here, the paragraph, the unordered list are all in the first division. And in the second division, I have a field set and I have a legend here. And then I have two divisions that are going to describe the content of the radio buttons shown on the web page. And of course, I have to link my HTML file to a JavaScript file called myscript.js, which is put in the JS folder. And I can show you the content of the HTML file. So I have the radio buttons for the first division and for the second division as well. And I can use these lines of code to generate the particular web page on the right-hand side. And let us go to the JavaScript file. In order for me to use the strict mode, I have to say use strict on the first line of the JavaScript file. Okay, let us start our discussion. When the web page is read or parsed, the standard HTML attributes can be converted to the corresponding DOM properties. So what are the standard attributes? We have some examples here. The global attributes are one type of standard attributes. So the global attributes are used by all HTML elements. For example, ID, class, and style. These attributes can be used by all HTML elements. That's why we call them global attributes. Also, the standard attributes can include some special attributes that can be used by specific elements. For example, for an input box, we can have a certain attribute called type. So this is something called the special attributes. And finally, we have event handler attributes that can also be treated as the standard attributes. So what are the event handlers? We can have something like onClick, onDrag, and so on. So generally, we have these three major types of attributes that can be treated as the standard attributes. So let us see an example. Now I want to obtain the first division from my document body. So I will be able to get this first division. Okay. So by using the query selector method, I'm able to get the first division. Of course, when I want to output the class name, I will be able to get this one called myList. So let us see the result. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see myList shown here, which is meaning the class name on my first division. Okay. So we can get the class name from my division pretty easily. And in my current division, I have also got another class name, which is a custom class name called extra name. And the extra name equals first list. So my class name property here can only show the standard attribute called class, and the content of the class attribute is called myList. It's able to show the extra name attribute that is a custom attribute. Not the case actually, because the conversion from the attribute to the property is not done for non-standard HTML attributes. So if I want to output the value of the extra name custom attribute, I will get undefined. So let us see the situation right now. So is it possible to show the value of the custom attribute called extra name? Let us see. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see undefined. That means the conversion from the non-standard attribute to the DOM properties is not easily done for non-standard attributes. Okay. So that means we can only access the class attribute for the time being, but not the custom one called extra name here. Okay. But fortunately, there are some ways to access all the standard and non-standard attributes from the HTML code. So we have some way to access this one, which is the custom attribute. So let us see how we can do it. One way is to use the attributes property of the element. Okay, so when I use the attributes property in my DOM tree, I'm able to access all the classes, the standard one and the non-standard one in my division. So I'm able to see all the standard attribute and the non-standard attribute. So let us see the result. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see the first class has a class name called myList. And the next one is going to show the non-standard attribute called extra name. Yes, you can see the extra name has come out, which means that I can also access the non-standard one by using the attributes property of the element. Okay, and of course the value is called the first list, which is shown here. Okay, so even though we have non-standard attributes, we can use the attributes property of the element to get all the standard and non-standard ones. In addition to the attributes property, I can have other ways to show the attributes. So if I want to see whether the element has really got the attribute called extra name, I can use the hasAttribute method to help me do so. So of course, the division here really has the attribute called extra name, even though it is a non-standard attribute. So let us see the result. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see true because I really have this non-standard attribute called extra name in the division. Okay. I can also get the attribute. So let us see how we can do it. So I want to get the attribute whose name is called extra name. So what will we see? Let us see by saving the file first. Save. And then I reload the page. Reload. Yes, you can see my list shown here, because this is actually the value of the attribute called extra name. So you can use the getAttribute method to find out the value corresponding to the attribute. Okay. In addition to getting an attribute, I can set an attribute. How can we do it? Let us see. So I can set the extra name attribute to another value called new first list. Save. Reload. It is not possible for the setAttribute method to show the value because it is just doing the setting. If I want to show the result, I can do it in this way. So I can show the outer HTML of the element, which should be able to reflect the setting here. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that the extra name value has been set to a new one called my first list. New first list, which is already done in the setAttribute method. So we can see that this setting is done correctly. Okay. And of course, the content shown here is already replacing the original content, even though it is not updated on the HTML file directly. Okay. In addition to setting an attribute, I can actually remove an attribute. So let us see how we can do it. So I can just type element.remove attribute followed by the attribute name shown here. So how can I check whether an attribute is actually removed? I can do something like this. I can just show the out HTML to reflect the change in the attribute on the HTML code. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that I have only one attribute value pair shown on the alert window, and the previous one called extra name is no longer existent in my division. So you can see that I'm able to really remove the attribute called extra name by using the remove attribute method. Okay. Now we are going to talk about another topic called property attribute synchronization. So what does it mean by synchronization here? A change in one thing is reflected in another thing. So when we change the property, it is reflected in the attribute. When we change the attribute, it is reflected in the property as well. So let us see some examples. The first one is that we can set up the attribute and the change is reflected in the property. So I want to get the element with ID called point1. So I'm able to get this list content. Okay. So I'm going to set the attribute of the element to have an attribute called class, and the value of this class is called p1. And is it really possible to reflect this change in the DOM tree? Yes, it is possible. So how can I show it to you? I have an idea like this. I can just show the class name from the DOM properties. This is the DOM property. So if I'm able to show this DOM property, it just means that the attribute can be changed to the property successfully. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see p1 coming out by using the class name property. So this property refers to that in the DOM tree, and you can see that after the attribute setup, this change can be reflected in the DOM tree immediately. Okay, so the attribute is able to change the property immediately. So I'm going to show you another example that involves the change of a property to be reflected in the attribute. Okay, I changed the class name of this thing to point1 pynt1 instead of just p1. So you can expect that the DOM property is changed. So this class has a value called pynt1 instead of just p1. And how can I show this to you? I can use the getAttribute method to show the value of the class attribute. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see point1 has come out. So originally class attribute has a value called p1, but it can be changed to point1 by using the assignment shown on line number 52. Okay, so it means that the property change can be reflected in the attribute. Okay. Okay, we are going to talk about another thing about attributes. The attribute values are always strings, but the DOM property values can have other types. What is the meaning here? I'm going to show you an example to explain it to you. Now I'm going to get the element with ID button1. Button1 is here. So I'm going to get this radio button with content Alice. Okay, so I'm going to get this radio button, and you can see that the value is C1, and I've already checked the first radio button. So that is the reason why we will see that the first radio button is the selected one already because of this checked attribute being set up. So if I want to get the attribute of the checked attribute here, what will we get? So let us see the result. Save, reload. Yes, you can see an empty string coming out because I haven't really assigned anything in the checked attribute. That's why I don't see any value coming from the checked attribute. Okay. So even though it means true in the setup, the attribute is still treated the true value as a string, which is an empty string. Okay. That's why we have to notice that the attribute values would always be strings. But how about the corresponding DOM property value? Let us see. So I want to see the value of the checked property in the DOM tree. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see true, which is really the value or passed to the checked attribute in the HTML file. Okay. So you can see that the DOM property value can be of other type rather than always strings in the HTML attribute. Okay. Now we are going to talk about the final thing of this video, which is called the dataset property. It can be used for storing custom attributes, so we don't always need to set up our own attributes by assigning our own names arbitrarily. We can have a way to do so by using the dataset property of the DOM tree. The purpose of using the dataset is that it is easier to manage the custom attributes than by using user-defined names for attributes. Okay. And if we use the dataset property, the custom attributes will have the convention like this. The custom attributes would start with data hyphen. So what does it mean by this one? You can see that I have two such examples on the HTML file. This is the first example, and that is the second example. So you can see that I can use data hyphen and then my other name assigned to the custom attribute. And then when I do something like this, I'm able to set my attribute value. So I can do the same thing for my another radio button. So data here followed by a hyphen, and then I add my name to the attribute. So the whole thing is my custom attribute, starting with data hyphen. Okay. What does it mean by this dataset property? When the browser does the conversion from the attribute to properties, in the DOM tree obtained, we will see the values represented by the camel case naming convention. So what does it mean by this thing here? I'm going to tell you by using an example. So I'm going to pick up the divisions inside my dataset. So I will be able to get this division and that division. So I'm able to get the divisions for my two radio buttons, and they are stored in my collection called my collection. Okay. Okay, if I want to obtain the DOM values from the two divisions, I can have some idea like this. Since I use the dataset property, I can just name my attributes starting with data hyphen. So if I want to get the corresponding DOM value after the conversion from HTML to DOM tree, I can have an idea like this. I use choice 1 in the form of camel case naming convention to represent the attribute with this extra name after data hyphen. So choice hyphen 1 becomes choice 1 in camel case naming convention. So I will be able to get female name as the answer to the second last line of the code. And similarly, I will be able to get the this value of the second collection. So you can see that choice 2 in camel case naming convention is actually corresponding to the dataset property with choice hyphen 2 in the name after data hyphen. Okay, so you will expect that I will get mail name from the very last line of the JavaScript code. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see female name which corresponds to the value after the conversion from the HTML attribute to the DOM properties. Okay. And for the second one, I will get male name because this is the second value in my collection with the use of the dataset property. So you can see that I can use dataset.choice1 in camel case convention to get this corresponding value of my attribute. Same for the other attribute. I use dataset.choice2 to correspond to this attribute name on the HTML file, data-choice-2. And of course, the choice2 here is using the camel case naming convention. So by using the dataset property, I'm able to correspond to my HTML attribute to the dataset property in the DOM tree. Okay. So in doing so, we are not using user-defined names which can be unorganized or difficult to understand. So we can use some unified convention to handle custom attributes. Okay. So this video has talked about many things about attributes and properties. We can have the conversion from the HTML code to the corresponding DOM tree, but the conversion is not done for non-standard HTML attributes. That's why we have to use other ways to get those non-standard attributes. We can have has attributes to see whether one attribute really exists. We can use the getAttribute method to really obtain it. We can set the attribute to another one, which can be reflected in the outer HTML of the element. And of course, I'm able to remove the attribute. Okay, and we have already seen some examples about property attribute synchronization. So when we change the attribute, it can be reflected in the corresponding DOM property, and vice versa. Okay. And we are also able to see that the attribute values are always strings, but the DOM property values can have other data types. Finally, we have seen the way to use the dataset property to store the custom attributes in some systematic approach. By using the camel case naming convention, we can obtain the corresponding property from a DOM tree, which is already converted from the HTML file. And in the HTML file, the attributes have to use a certain naming convention, data hyphen followed by other parts of the attribute name. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, please leave your questions on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.